So, picture this. Deep in a valley, totally shrouded in mist and silence, there's this old mansion. The locals, they have a name for it. Rakt Mahal, the Palace of Blood. The stories say its walls literally drink blood, and its shadows, well, they steal souls. It's a place that just radiates fear, a house that's always waiting, hungry for new people, new stories. And every single story it decides to consume, it starts with a very simple, very chilling invitation. An old woman, her skin like ancient parchment, her eyes just dim with a time you can't even imagine, speaks these exact words to a group of young, cocky visitors. Her voice is this dry, rattling whisper, an invitation that sounds a whole lot more like a final sentence. Now, here's the thing. That's actually the end of our story, but it's also, weirdly enough, the beginning.
See, that old woman, she wasn't always the caretaker. Not that long ago, she showed up just like those new visitors. She was a filmmaker, full of ambition, ready to capture all the secrets of Rakt Mahal. So the real question, the one we're going to dig into, is what on earth happened inside that house that could twist a seeker of truth into its eternal prisoner?
To answer that, we have to go back to a documentary filmmaker named Maya, her much more cautious sister Riva, and their pretty hesitant cameraman Samir. They didn't come to Rakt Mahal with fear. Oh no, they came with a goal: debunk all the myths and walk away with a national award. And really, their mindset was their first huge mistake. Maya was the engine of the group. She didn't see the local legends as warnings. She saw them as, flavor for her award-winning documentary. Riva, on the other hand, felt this creeping dread, saying the air just felt wrong. Samir was already pointing out they had zero cell signal, but Maya just brushed it all off. Don't worry, she told them, I'm here. The second they walked in, they were met by the original caretaker, an old woman they just called Dottie, and she was not friendly. Her lantern was unlit, her eyes were just locked on them. When Maya explained their whole plan to film, Dottie gave them their very first rule, which sounded a lot more like a prophecy. If you try to capture the house's shadows, you become one yourself. And she laid out the laws of Rakt Mahal with this grim finality. Rule 1, the house hates being filmed. Rule 2, you might have come in on your own, but the house decides if you leave. And Rule 3, the most important one of all, do not under any circumstances go into the room upstairs. And with that, she just vanished into the darkness, leaving them to their big mistake. So now they're left alone and they start setting up their equipment. But it really doesn't take long for them to realize they're not just in some old, abandoned building. No, they were inside something alive, something that was watching them. And slowly, the house began to make its presence felt. Maya, always the documentarian, pulls out her dictaphone. Scene 4, shot 1, she records. We are inside Rakt Mahal. The temperature here is at least 10 degrees colder than outside. I mean, an unnatural chill just hung in the air, and the silence was so deep she actually noted you could hear your own heartbeat. Then, Riva noticed it, a huge portrait of a family hanging over the fireplace. It looked ancient. But here's the thing. The faces of the children had been violently scratched out. The only thing left was the mother's face, and her eyes, painted with this unnerving detail, seemed to follow their every single move. Yeah, they were definitely not alone. And of course, ignoring every single warning, they went upstairs. At the end of a rotting hallway, they found it. A door painted a deep blood red. It looked brand new against all the decay. This had to be the forbidden room. The second Maya reached for the handle, the temperature just plummeted. You could see their breath. And then, a thick, black liquid started oozing from under the door, while the sound of fingernails scraping on stone echoed from inside. Terrified, they ran. I mean, who wouldn't? But that initial fear quickly turned into this dawning, absolutely horrifying realization. They weren't just being haunted by a ghost. No, they were caught. They were trapped inside a system that played by its own impossible, twisted rules. First, they ran for the main door. It wouldn't budge. Jammed shut. Then they rushed to the kitchen, hoping for a back exit. That door felt like it had been welded closed. In total desperation, Samir grabbed a heavy iron pot and hurled it at a window. It just bounced off the glass with a dull thud. Not a single crack. They were completely sealed in. And then, just when they thought it couldn't get any worse, a sound came from the pantry's darkness. It wasn't the daddy's voice. It was the giggle of a small child. "Want to play hide and seek?" it whispered. "Whoever is caught is mine forever." The house wasn't just a place. It was an intelligence, and it wanted to play a game for keeps.
Back in the dining hall, a totally shaken Samir decides to review the footage from upstairs, and his eyes go wide with absolute terror. He plays it for Maya. There, in the grainy recording of the hallway, was a tall, twisted, shadowy figure walking just inches behind Riva, its distorted face lingering right near her neck. It had been with them the entire time.
Suddenly, a trapdoor they hadn't even noticed before creaks open. Thinking maybe, just maybe, it was an escape route, they went down, into a basement that looked like a sorcerer's workshop. On shelves lining the walls were hundreds of little clay dolls, each with a name and a year. Vikram, 1992, Sonia, 2004. And right in the center of the room were 3 new, unfinished dolls, decorated with scraps of fabric from Maya's jacket, Riva's scarf, and Samir's shirt.
Trapped again, they eventually find their way into another room, and on a table is an old register. Inside were the names of everyone who had ever set foot in the house. Maya flips to the very last page, and there are their names, but next to them, it didn't say how they'd die. It listed what the house would take. For Maya, her voice. For Samir, his sight. For Riva, her soul. And the dates listed next to their names were in the future. This wasn't a ghost story. They were caught in a time trap. So there it was. Their fates were already written. The house wasn't just going to kill them. It was going to consume them, piece by piece, to fuel its own terrible existence. And now, the cycle was reaching its awful, inevitable end. What happened next was just a blur of impossible horror. Just like the book said, Riva's eyes turned a milky white as her soul was ripped away and she just vanished into thin air. Samir looked down at his own hands in terror as they became transparent, fading away until his entire body was gone. The house was simply collecting its payment.
Maya, now completely terrified and alone, saw a figure on the stairs. It was the daddy. "I am dead, yet I am here," the old woman said, her voice coming from everywhere at once. "Because this house is a memory, and memories never die. Now you must take my place. My time is over." And just like that, the horrific transaction was complete. When Maya opened her eyes again, she was sitting in a chair with the morning sun on her face. But it wasn't her face. Her skin was loose, her hands were wrinkled, her eyes clouded over. The ambitious filmmaker was gone, replaced by a broken gatekeeper, forever trapped in the very story she wanted to tell. As she just sits there, she hears it, the sound of a car pulling up to the gate. A new one. 3 young people get out, armed not with film cameras, but with drones and thermal imaging gear. "Guys, this is it! Rakt Mahal!" one of them yells. "Let's make a viral video!" Their confidence was a perfect, tragic echo of her own. Seeing them, Maya, the new daddy, sheds a single tear. In the distance, she can just make out 3 faint shadows watching. Herself, Riva, and Samir. And it just begs the question, right? In a place like Rakt Mahal, what even is a memory? Is it just something from the past, or is it an active, hungry thing that can never be erased, only passed on to the next victim? As the new group approaches the door, the aged Maya stands up to greet them. Her face is a blank mask, her voice a dry, rasping whisper, as she repeats the very same words that sealed her own fate and will now seal theirs. "Come in. The house is waiting for you."